let's try this. It should still record. I wonder if it'll still stream. I don't know. Well, it says live is 000, but recording is going, so we'll leave it like that. Oh, sometimes it's not easy to be not geopolitical. Snowden steals government information, says the US is bad, and then gets Russian citizenship. Palace intrigue, or just kind of intriguing as the former chairman of China walks out or is escorted out? Which one was it? Xi Jinping has been re-elected. No surprise, but the surprise was trying to get a newspaper. And Japan's starting to build up arms again, rebuilding its army to what it was like in World War II. Monday, October 24th, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky. This here is my audio digest. And geopolitics, sometimes is the things I talk about. It's hard not to, I'll tell you. I live in Beijing, China. I work here. I live here. And all the show notes and archives are available on my website, stevensersky.com. So if you want to take a look at some of the other stuff I've done before, it's all there. Or through Spotify, Apple, and Google. That's where you can find this podcast. And I want to presage this episode with this whole idea that it is very difficult to avoid being geopolitical when you're an expat. I know, I guess some people are, but I'll tell you, even the people who say, I don't like talking about geopolitics as an expat, more often than not, they have some political opinion that will boil up at some point. It does. There are very few people, I don't know anyone who can literally walk away from a discussion of politics uh, in any and not have anything to say or any opinion. There's maybe a few, but it's probably because they don't read about it at all. I mean, if anyone reads the news in any capacity, they're going to have an opinion about something. And usually it's going to be like, you know, United States is declining, U.S. dollar is going to end, and the world's all going to shit, sort of thing. Kind of like it's been like the entire. Like, it hasn't changed very much over the years, but that's sort of the idea of what's happening. So yeah, this weekend, actually, I'll tell you, it was very hard not to sort of pay attention to what's been going on in the headlines for multiple reasons. So the big news out of here in China is that Xi Jinping has been reelected for a third term in here in China. So he's the chairman, he's the general secretary, and he has one other title for the military, I think. The commander. I'm not sure what his military title is. So he has all three, and he's part now. There's 6 or 7 total for the standing committee for the CPC that's going to govern over China for the next 5 years. The question is now, are they going to stay there afterwards? Like, are they going to be reelected? Or there was another guy, Tai Chi, he's sort of he's the former mayor of Beijing, and some people are wondering if he's sort of being groomed, if he's being prepared. I hate that word groomed. It's so odd. If he's sort of on track to be a potential chairman at some point down the line, if and when Xi Jinping releases control, sort of thing. Now, of course, there was some other there was at least one comment I saw today that it's like, yeah, congratulations to Xi Jinping, and you joined the ranks of several other world leaders who've who've stayed for 3 terms. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't change the Constitution to do it, first of all. Second of all, they had crumbling and FDR was one, but that was like World War II. So there's a lot of sort of associations, and also Canada. Like I brought up the point of Canada. There's been a lot of people who served more than 3 elections, 2 or 3 elections, but it's the nature of the Canadian, what do you call it? The Canadian political election system, because not like the States where every 4 years there's definitely an election. In Canada, it's every 5 years maximum. There has to be an election. So if the party in power goes uncontested for 5 years, then they have to call an election. However, In that time, given the Canadian diaspora, not diaspora, the smorgasbord of political parties that make up the Canadian political scene, um, if the minority government teams up with like the tertiary government, like the tertiary party, not government, minority government. So the majority, who would be usually liberals or conservatives, then you'd have your minority government, and they can team up with the tertiary standing political party, and they can have a vote of non-confidence in the majority holding government, and then they can force an election. And so this has happened over the last 25 years. I remember this happening several times where it was like you'd have an election one year, then it'd be like 18 months later there was another election. I think there was a period, I'm not sure if it was Stephen Harper. Jean Chrétien was sort of uncontested in a lot of his stuff, but Stephen Harper was contested quite a bit. Justin Trudeau as well. There was a time in the 90s, I think, actually, this is where Jean Chrétien sort of emerged as victorious, where there was at least one prime minister, Kim Thatcher. Not Kim Thatcher. Kim Campbell. There we go. So Kim Thatcher's the three-term lady in Britain, but Kim Campbell, she was in office for like 6 months or something like that. So like Kim Campbell, Liz Truss, kind of same thing, where they get elected and then they're like, nah, this is not it. This is not anything to want anymore. Um, and that time, like the party was shifting all over the place. So, but with this, this congratulations to Xi Jinping, and like this analogy of, he joins the ranks of these other the likes of other world leaders. I'm going, yeah, well, we have to add Putin to that one, and then the guy in Kim Jong Un in North Korea. He's been there for a while as well. Kind of uncontested, even though technically North Korea is a republic. They say China's a republic as well, and just that the most powerful party seems to be the CCP, and all of it, all of the talk for the last week, basically, as Congress, is that the CCP is going to the CPC, whatever it is. They have no plans to relinquish power over China. Like there's no discussion of like multi-party, bipartisan, nothing. It's one party, one system. It's like this. It's not going to change. Not going. And Xi Jinping made a speech last week, and I've been trying to find a printed copy of it, the opening speech for the Congress. I found it online, but it was being translated, so I've read some of it. I've listened to some of it. I have the MP3 files. If you want it, let me know. I can send it to you, but it's translated. He's speaking in the background, but the translator's over top of that. I was looking for a printed copy of it just so I could have it in Chinese. I have some of his written works in English, and I think one of his works, one set of speeches in Chinese as well. I can't remember. I thought it'd be kind of neat. But no surprise. I mean, with this whole Xi Jinping getting reelected, I mean, the issue is that will three be enough? Terms be enough? Because Putin hasn't given up control, but he did. And then he came back, and he's like, which you kind of think a guy like Putin in a system like Russia, you kind of go. He probably took a look around. Was like, I can do this. I may as well. So he did. It's a kind of like us mere mortals have this sort of, if I didn't, I would regret not having done it sort of thing. I mean, chances are he had this idea. It's like, in 20 years I'll regret not having done this if I know I can get it done. And I'm sure a lot of people think the same way, sort of thing, just because that's the game that they're playing. It's the nature of the game that they're playing. So with all this, I guess thankfully the Congress is over. It's a little bit things should lighten up, but now I guess the big question is like what's going to happen now. I can tell you the markets reacted well. Some people were saying it went down, but I'm going a lot of the stocks did go up, especially the tech companies. All the tech companies have been jumping quite a bit, which sort of indicates that there might be some sort of what would you call it, like an agreement between the government and the tech companies coming to orders or coming to fruition now that Xi Jinping is going to be in there for another little while. it's sort of they understand what the playing field will be like for the next 5 years. So again, with this third term, is it going to be 3 years? Because FDR gave it up after, Thatcher gave it up after. Um, Chrétien was, I think Chrétien stopped, and then Harper was defeated by Justin Trudeau, and Trudeau has survived 2 or 3 elections, despite lots of people not liking him. He's still being elected. So what this is, I guess, this is where is China same, different? What sort of standing in political atmosphere does China have? Now, keep in mind, Xi Jinping changed the constitution back in 2000, was it 17, 2018? He didn't change it. The constitution was changed, right? But that's what happened. So, all that being said, I mean, is it going to be 3 terms? Is it going to be 4? Is it going to be lifelong? Is it going to be what? This is sort of what the big question is. Now, that wasn't a big surprise, but the big surprise was trying to get a newspaper this morning. So I didn't realize that this was going to be an issue. I should have known. I really should have. I mean, given my experience last year trying to get the Renmin Rabao edition of the July 1st, 2021 edition, which is the 100th anniversary of the CCP, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China. I wanted to get that one. It is on Taobao. You can buy it for 90 kwai. My girlfriend's like, you don't really want it, do you? I'm like, lady, I have spent and wasted more stuff, more money on dumber shit than that. Yes. I mean, think of it. It's like 2 beers at the bar, and you have nothing to show for it after. Uh, Most times. But a paper. I mean, why not? So this one, we went to 3 or 4. Well, I went to 5 or 6 total, but there was 3 or 4 in the immediate neighborhood that we went to, and they were like, "Nah, it's over." The guy by Shuangjing Station, he was like, "Nah." I was like, just as soon as I opened, they were gone. So that people came up and bought them. The lady across the street by Viva Mall, she said that there was a waiting list, that people asked to have a copy held. And not only that, just before we got there, some guy apparently tried to buy all of the editions of the Beijing Daily, and she refused to sell them all. So she held some of them. She actually had them inside the hut instead of on the desk outside. And so I managed to get one of those. I bought that from her. I also bought the Global Times as well. And then we went across the street, and the other lady was like, "Nah, those are gone. Those were gone." When she opened, people were there basically to buy the thing. So I stopped by a few more along the way. I had to go up to Liangmachao today, and yeah, they were all just like, "Nah, it's all gone, all done." You can get the Global Times in English. I'm like, I already have that. So I got the Beijing Daily, and then I got the Global Times. Now, why do I want this? Is because what happens is that they publish a picture of the elected leader, and they had one for Deng Xiaoping. I'm not sure if they did not show Hu Jintao's, but which I'll talk about in a minute. But so the idea is that this full page, or like at least a half page image of the newly elected chairman of China. And that's what I wanted. Now I have the Beijing one, but I have Beijing Daily. I don't have the Renmin Rabao. No doubt it'll be on Taobao at some point. It'll cost like 100 kwai. And to me, I'm like, it's 100 kwai. Whatever sort of thing. But at the same time, yeah, I can see that why most Chinese people would be like, it's a newspaper. Why? What will you do with that? Very good question. What will I do with it? Hu Jintao. So he was in the news on Saturday, and this was a big kerfuffle here in Beijing, and on, of course, Western media jumped on this as if it was like wolves to sheep. Wolves just obliterating a pen full of sheep or a field full of baby lambs. I mean, it was that everyone was just throwing this around as like proof of, whatever. And I mean, even I got trolled a couple times with this lady who's like, "Can't you see with your own eyes?" I'm like, I can see. If you watch the full video, it does not look like what the Western media is presenting it as. So what happened? Now, on Saturday, there was a meeting. I guess this was the voting meeting. And they had this bigger deal where all of the members, the senior political leaders were sitting at this one long table. And whatever happens, the foreign media were only allowed at a certain point, in at a certain point. Now, once the foreign media was allowed in, this is what caused such a big problem, was that Hu Jintao, the former chairman of China, Xi Jinping took over from him, right, in 2012. So Hu Jintao left office in 2012 after his 2 terms, and Xi Jinping assumed control, got voted in. And what happens is that at some point, just after the foreign press is allowed into the building, Hu Jintao is helped out of the room. Now, why? And this is sort of the big issue is like what's going on? Like, oh, he was forced out. He was forcibly removed. He was not. He did not. I've watched the video, the unedited video. It does not look like he was forced out. It looked as if he was actually not entirely sure what was going on, sort of thing. There is a part, and people say that Xi Jinping ignored him. That's not true. Xi Jinping actually had stood up when Hu Jintao was first sort of being um, handled, I guess you could say, and they all stood up and sort of was like, could he get up on his own volition? Was he trying to get up on his own volition? He didn't want to go. I mean, no doubt he probably didn't want to leave because this is an important area. But is it because he didn't approve of what was happening of Xi Jinping? Was it because of something else? That I don't know can be said with such certainty, which is what the media and this one troll was going after. But I'm telling you, you watch the full video. The guy looks confused. He's 80 years old, right? And as he's leaving, he does pat Xi Jinping on the back, and then he also says, also touches another guy on the shoulder. I couldn't remember who that one is. I'm not sure if it was another chairman at some point. The guy before was it not Hu Jintao, Jiang Bo, Jiang Min. Don't know, can't remember. Anyway, have to check those names. So this has caused a huge Twitter explosion, Western media explosion. I ended up posting on Facebook after that. I'm like, listen, this doesn't really change very much. You can watch the video and say it's this or that, or try to convince anybody that this was a representation of Xi Jinping removing the old people, removing the retired elders from the picture, and that now it's his way or you're gone, sort of thing. I go, I don't know. I see new people coming in to China. Um, I don't see. I mean, it doesn't really affect my employment too much, and I'm still committed to learning Chinese at least a little bit more. So for me, it doesn't change anything, and I don't know anybody else who's really concerned about this. It, I guess one of the issues was that how Xi Jinping is handling this dynamic zero COVID policy. That's the big question. Is he going to continue or is it going to change? Why all these lockdowns and stuff like that? Uh, you know, very good question. Is it still a concern? Is it not a concern? In Beijing, things are relatively open, although I'm told that there are some lockdowns every now and then, but they're not as stringent as they're not as heavy-handed as they were. It's like 3 days, and it's like it's compound specific. It's not like neighborhoods or districts or anything like that. So it's kind of whether or not this is going to change end anytime soon. You could also argue about the supply chain, like this is disrupting the supply chain, which I hear some financial people are saying it's still causing some reverberations there. Now, is this going to change anytime soon? Probably not. Probably not. And since I work from home, I guess the big thing is that we just can't leave the city. Like it's actually kind of weird that I haven't left Beijing for so long that it's become almost pretty normal. I guess that this is what most people would call a normal life. Living a normal settled life is living in the same apartment all the time and not going anywhere. Wow, that's how it feels. Anyway, two of the little points here. So this Snowden, Edward Snowden, this whistleblower, and the media or the people seem to hold this guy up as a hero of the people. Well, let's consider one other thing that happened. So this guy is one of these guys who blew the whistle on the U.S. CIA government-sponsored spying, big data, you name it. And he was calling out the Tor network, basically, well, something along those lines, right? What this guy he worked for a security agency, network security, whatever it was, and he basically stole a bunch of government information. Like, let's just stop right there. He went into work, stole a bunch of stuff, told the media that he has it, releases it, and he's held as a hero for stealing information about. Dude, you just crippled you crippled your own country. You're saying that they're terrible people, and literally you just poked them in the eye. That's what you did. You say, "Why are you so blind?" Poking him in the eye. Not only that, he has more. And so the reason why he's back in the government or back in the spotlight is because the Russian government has granted him citizenship. Now, I'm not sure if this was his end game for so long. It'd be kind of odd if he thought he was going to become Russian. Very hard way. Now, I've said this before. I mean, with Russia, with China, even with places like Japan or South Korea, you can't become a citizen. Like if you're a Canadian or a foreigner, you can marry, but you can be a permanent resident. In some places, at least, you will not be a citizen. You will never have voting rights in that country, or in that culture especially. So it just won't happen. And now Snowden has it. I think he joins Steven Seagal uh, as being. Did Seagal get citizenship? Did he get a passport? Yes, he must have. Now here's the other thing. That did Snowden give up his citizenship? To be fair, it's not easy to give up your citizenship. You actually have to make an application. You have to pay a fee. They have to accept the application, and it all takes a very long time. The United States basically stopped making it so easy about 5, 10 years ago, or something along those lines. Even for Canada, I think right now you're not even able to apply for rejecting your Canadian citizenship. At least on the website, I think it was like you might be able to apply next year, sort of thing. So they're not processing those applications. Sorry, you're stuck being Canadian for at least a little bit, what, a little longer. I know, and they'll probably tax you in that time, but they have to tax you in that time. The other thing that is sort of happening is that Japan has now said that it is going to start rebuilding up its arms supply. And I don't mean the ones that they use to play video games. I mean the ones that they used to, you know, be a major force in World War II. This has been something that a lot of people, or some people, have been watching. That if Japan does this, the power axis in, or the power shifts in the Pacific, like right on China's doorstep, will shift and they will change. So Japan has been dealing with Russia encroaching on its territory. They've been arguing about territory. They argue about territory with South Korea and then also with China. Now, Japan recognizes Taiwan as an independent country, which bothers China. Other reasons, like China and Japan, have this very acrimonious, bitter history. I mean, they get along sometimes, but it's pretty much they don't like each other, and it's been like that for a very, very long time, and it does not look like it's ever going to be settled 100%. But since World War II, Japan has basically said we'll only create a peacekeeping army, military presence. We won't build up any offensive weapons. That's changed. That has now changed, and with that happening, that means on China's doorstep, where China was very confident in its rise of military power, all of a sudden they have this country and this people who they have historically fought for hundreds of years, all of a sudden remilitarizing, basically. What did I say about, the bombs dropping on Beijing? I hope not. I mean, that's where I live. I mean, this is, oh, and they could hit Tianjin probably quickly, I think. Oh, that is not good. That is not good at all. Anyway. Well, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Enough geopolitical yik yak today. I had one more point about the current state of affairs in Russia and in Ukraine, but I'll leave that for another day, I guess. Anyway, yeah, hard not to pay attention to some of this geopolitical stuff. All right, taking enough of your time today. I appreciate it. Sorry for going on about geopolitics, but I thought maybe you guys can we can all get onto the same wavelength of sort of what's happened over the weekend, because it was a very important weekend with Hu Jintao, Xi Jinping, Snowden getting citizenship. Sort of changes a bit of a view on what's whistleblowing there. All right, show notes, tracks, and vids up on my website, stevensersky.com. Today's stream did not work, as I seem to be having some issues with my everything, connections and computers. I have to go into the service on Thursday, I think, to get this all checked out. But all right, we'll leave it there. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it. We'll talk again. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye.